Okay, this has just been released by the Egyptian authorities and was brought to my attention by one of my regulars. I appreciate it, Angie. A 3,000-year-old tattooed mummy belongs to an Egyptian woman, and it's just released here on the 19th. And what you can see here is the body, and you can see the Egyptian hieroglyphs that are written on her neck that are right here. And they're basically all of her body. She has some also that are here. You can see that by this time they had really perfected a lot of the mummification processes, where before they were really shellacking people with almost a black shellac. And if this was on this mummy, you wouldn't be able to see it. And also that indicates the fact that maybe we could look at some of the old ones under infrared and see if they have any tattoos. But I don't know if they're going to allow us to take a bunch of mummies out and just run them around through machines to see if we see tattoos for any reason. But if given the opportunity to overlook a mummy, we should probably do something along this line so you can see it. Perhaps the tattoos tell you certain things and so on. What's unique about this one is it has a few pictures of real people and so on. A couple of the other videos I did that show some tattoos showed like the shepherd's hook and the bull and so on. And of course that relates back to old primordial thoughts and the shepherd kings and the bull, and how the Sumerians had brought them the cattle and so on that started off the Egyptian people coming into one group and becoming one Egyptian people. According to a press release by the Ministry of Antiquities here, a mummy uncovered at Deir el Medina village on the west bank of Luxor featured 30 tattoos belonging to a young woman. Now, the mummy was found in 2014 by French archaeologists' mission from the French Institute of Oriental Studies, which carried out the scientific research on the mummy and its tattoos using infrared technology. And it makes them show up a little better. On this mummy, you can clearly see them, but then to designate exactly where they are, they used infrared. Infrared, when you run over somebody like this and they have like a mole or something, it shows up extreme. And so any melanin or dark pigmentation reflects off of it. It's almost like when you put a black light on something and it brings out the colors, or it brings out something that you possibly didn't see before. Dr. Mustafa Waziri, General Secretary of the Supreme Councils of Antiquities of Egypt, explained that the studies revealed that woman probably had lived between 1300 and 1070 BC and died between 25 and 34 years old. The mummy has 30 unique tattoos etched on different parts of the body, including the neck, back, shoulders, and arms. The tattoos are of bulls, lotus flowers, a group of cattle, and the Ujat eye, which is shown there on her neck, and reflects that this mummy belongs to a woman who had an important religious status during her lifetime. They don't know any more about it necessarily and don't have a name attached to it. Once they look over these hieroglyphics and try to get them down, it may have her name on her someplace, but that's somewhat kind of doubtful. I mean, even today, people don't put their name on themselves. They usually put on, mother or something, or all their children's names or things along that line, or maybe the person that they're in love with. So, it's entirely possible that she does contain other information like that. Just thought I'd bring this up to you and show you the look of it here. Here's another look at her body, and you can see how pale it is in this vid here. And of course, the women in Egypt were kept pale, and you can see that in their art, where the men are pretty much a red ochre color, about the color of her skin up here, and the women are pretty much drawn a lighter pale color like what's seen here. Now, of course, the mummification process darkens everything, like I showed you in the Bob Breyer vid that I did, where he actually mummifies a real pale white man, and they ends up turning a chocolate brown, as dark as any of the mummies. And so in this one, we can see the newer effect and how they had figured out how to really dehydrate these mummies more correctly. And you can see these symbols here on her arm, across her shoulder, again, of course, on the neck and the eye they were talking about, and down the arm. Now, the problem with this is that her skin has become pretty much like beef jerky. And you see how crepey and crimpled this skin is. And you know how a bad tattoo, or any tattoo, once you get old, generally doesn't quite look like it did before. And so they're having to try to put this and figure it out and then smear it out onto a table and stretch it mentally with using computer enhanced type things and to figure out what it says. And they apparently are in the middle of doing this now, but because of the excitement, they decided to go ahead and release it. But I think it's pretty neat here. Although her different titles, positions, and name have not been identified, Wazazi added to the woman was probably a top official or an elite. Dr. Waziri also said that other uncovered mummies were found with simple tattoos featuring small lines and dots, but the young woman's mummified body is the first to feature real figures. And in a lot of the Egyptian art, we do see people with tattoos on. Let me see if I can show you a quick. Like here, we can see a delegation being led to the king here, and you can see the different walks of life that they have and stuff off of it. Here's the tan to red ochre Egyptians. Here's a Semite with the tassels onto him. Here's a Negroid Nubian. And then these here are Libyans here that are there. Apparently it's a Libyan delegation. And you can see how they have these robes that are cast off to one side and off of one shoulder, looking kind of Romanesque a little bit, from the varied colors that are in them. But if you look at these people on their arms, there are triangles and shapes and lines. And look how on their shoulders there's always three lines like water, right? And then these hash marks that are down below it, Lord knows if they keep up with their age, if it's some type of like, hey, every girlfriend I ever had, I put a hash mark on my lipstick case or anything like that. But strange, they show things coming down their legs here with these posts that almost look like some kind of peg leg situation. Usually it's on one leg, it seems, which is another oddity. Other times they'll have these crosshatch patterns here, or what can be revealed here. Sometimes at the arch of their foots. And so the Egyptians really took note of these people here and stuff. One thing also to take note of here is that these Libyans have red hair, reddish dawned beards and stuff, and how pale they really are. So this is North African Libyans. At one time, Africa was all called Libya for a while, and then they had their own territory, and then it went from there. And then, of course, they named it Africa after a Greek general, Africanus. And it kind of means motherland to all the Caucasians, you know, back whenever people still had belief in the out of Africa theory that's now kind of been debunked, and it's shown to be a in and out of Africa from more of a Middle Eastern European origin of Caucasians. The Negroids have their own origin separate from 1.2 million years ago down in sub-Saharan Africa. But yeah, tattoos all over these guys and stuff. So you can see there are a lot of tattoos. Now, we don't know, maybe this was a Libyan woman. Quite often during, especially in those dynasties there were some Libyan kings that were there, some pharaohs that were over the area. It clearly shows running through some of those dynasties. So it's possible that she's from that lineage. Although no one has to put that, you know, incredible of a lineage on her. She's just an Egyptian noblewoman. The weird notified thing here, though, is the tattooing that's on her seems much more elaborate than any they had ever seen before. But again, most of the older mummies, whenever they mummify somebody like this, they end up turning such a dark color, and then they shellac them down to where they're almost a soot black, and you wouldn't be able to see. Just like on black people, you really can't see tattoos. The modern admixed black people that are lighter skinned, you can see them on too, but somebody that's this dark, you can't. In fact, the Nubians and stuff just do facial scarring and things. They would do lines of scars on their body and on their face, kind of a body scarring type situation. Anyhow, quite interesting here. And of course, anything new that's interesting comes out of Egypt, I try to relay to y'all. I appreciate y'all. Have a great day.